All right. Hello and welcome. My name is Carly Todd. I'm the Associate Director for New Student Orientation at UNLV, and I'll be your moderator for this session. As a reminder, please remain muted and have your camera turned off throughout the duration of the session. This will help ensure the audio and video quality of the meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be sent to you along with the presentation slides at the conclusion of this event today. If you have any questions, please place them in the chat box on the right side of your screen and we'll do our best to answer them during the allotted time at the end of the session. You can send chat messages to everyone or private chat to me directly. At the end of this summit, please remember to fill out the post-event survey found on the summit website. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jim and Mac. Jim, take it away.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So I'll just go through our slides, and then I'm going to hand off to Mac, and she's going to run with her piece. Hope everybody's comfortable and has a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is this morning. So a picture of the campus, just a quick reminder of the orientation. We're looking south, and on the right-hand side of the screen is the E.O. Wiegand Fitness Center. Right across the street us from the Union looking down. I'm in that building to the right now, actually. So quick talk. This is about, we're talking about the integration of wellness and things like that. And we, to a degree, bucked that trend a little bit. From 94 to 2016, our department's name was Campus Recreation and Wellness. And in 2017 till now, we changed actually to Fitness and Recreational Sport. And this was a conscious effort to move away actually from wellness. And there's two reasons. Well, really three. One is that wellness has been a concept that's been really pushed hard in the private sector and in the municipal sector, very hard from the 1980s through like 2006. And by and large, it has not been a successful concept in either one of those settings. Taking what we know about fitness or human work capacity and its contributions to overall health, both physical, mental, emotional. When we talk about recreation, that is something that the definition is that those are things that we do in our leisure time after the demands of daily living are met. And when we really understand the importance of fitness to overall health, it is not something that can be relegated to your free time, to something that, well, maybe I'll get to it today, maybe I won't. It is as important as food, it is as important as sleep, okay? And so for us, we felt that it needed to be kind of preeminent in our title. And so that's why we moved away from it. So quick, and I promise you this is going someplace, but this is the way we look at the epidemiology of our nation, is that about 7 to 11% of our population has cancer. About 9% of our population has diabetes. And the unfortunate thing is the fastest growing group of diabetics in our country is children, right? Heart disease, about 12%. Alzheimer's, about 0.017%, addicted to opioids, about 0.0084% of our population as a total. But when we look over here, 68% of the American population is overweight or obese. And if we look at cancer, diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, those are actually, for a big chunk of those diseases, are secondary to being overweight and actually maybe tertiary to being overweight or obese. Because really what drives the obesity and overweight issue is low work capacity, low fitness. And so that's how our pyramid of disease works, is we look at these things as secondary or tertiary to low work capacity. But most of the efforts in our nation are targeted at these issues when, from our perspective, the horse is already out of the barn, okay? And so you hear me talk about work capacity. And for us, we define work capacity as force times distance divided by time, which gives us average power. It's how we measure fitness. It really is the only way to measure fitness, okay? And with the bottom, we have across broad modalities and time domains. And what that means is modality is whatever you're doing. It can be running, it can be swimming, it can be weightlifting, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, gymnastics, whatever modality or combination of modalities. We want to look at all those things combined. And when we talk about time domains, we're really talking about training energy pathways. And so it can be from 7 seconds out to 2 hours. So we want people to have really good work capacities within all the modalities and within all the time domains. Okay, so here's the deal, is that as work capacity, and remember I'm using work capacity interchangeably with fitness. As work capacity increases, everything that medicine or anybody else wants to measure goes in the right direction. And that, it doesn't matter if it's heart rate, blood pressure, cholesterol levels. You can look at pretty much any measurement that's out there. And as long as work capacity is going in an upward trajectory, all of those things go in the direction we want them to go in. Okay. And thing to remember about work capacity is intensity is the single most important variable in increasing work capacity. So we get fitter by going harder, which is not a concept that a lot of people want to embrace. The bottom line is that if the stressor does not increase, then our fitness level remains static or declines. Most of the issues that we attribute to aging have really nothing to do with aging and have everything to do with disuse. So a couple other things. You guys, this is probably most of the people in the room, I don't know your ages, but this is probably way before you, but in the 80s is when the CDC and the American College of Sports Medicine, that came out with their recommendations for physical activity for Americans. And they changed the name from physical fitness to physical activity, which was a wordsmithing game, which kind of cheated us a little bit. And so there was a ton of research in the decade after demonstrating that fitness really was more important. And so, excuse me. So there was an initial study that was published in 95, and really they looked at overweight men, and it demonstrated that there were higher mortality rates than normal weight men. Okay, people said, okay, people that are overweight or obese, they die at a younger age. Then they looked at fit men who exercise regularly 3 times per week, but had comparable mortality rates regardless of BMI. Okay, so fitness is starting to rear its head. But the real kicker in here was that normal weight men who were unfit were nearly 3 times likely to die prematurely as their overweight counterparts who exercised. So people could be overweight and they could be fit, and they could have a longer lifespan and less morbidity and mortality. So that's one of those confounding outliers that creates problems for us, right? So I'm just throwing these up because these are this is 20-year-old data at least, right? And so when we look at normal weight, overweight, and obese individuals, and we look at things like being fit, being unfit, being a smoker or a non-smoker, what we find out is that still our relative risk is greatest for those that are unfit, right? And if we break this down by males and females, and we add things like systolic blood pressure, total cholesterol, which I don't get spun up about total cholesterol, BMI, things like that, low fitness is still a greater risk factor than being a smoker, than having high cholesterol, than having high blood pressure. But it's the one thing that people will never look at, okay? And so these studies have been repeated in the last 3 and 4 years. This one, same thing. Hey, being unfit on a treadmill or exercise test has a worse prognosis for as far as death goes than being hypertensive, diabetic, or a current smoker. So these things haven't changed. So I have this slide up, and we're just going to walk through the exercise and stress because we do a lot of collaborative work on this campus. We do a lot of collaborative work in the community. And a lot of times people are coming to us and they're saying, hey, we want to do a stress relief program with y'all. And we're like, great, we're going to do high intensity exercise. And they're like, no, we want to do yoga. We want you to do a meditation program. It's like, well, to be honest, the yoga does not decrease stress. Meditation by and large does not decrease stress. There's a dark side to meditation where it actually makes it worse. You have to be highly skilled or guided by somebody who's highly skilled to not turn that to an obsession session. And the basic human science requires an intensity of exercise that exceeds about 8 METs to let the top off of the stress response. Because here's the deal: is general adaptive syndrome, GAS syndrome, was identified in 1936 by Dr. Hans Selye, and it is the physiologic cascade response to a stressor. Okay, and it's what's called a single non-specific response to stress. Human beings, we have one physiologic response to stress. It doesn't come in different flavors. We've only got one, right? And it's a specific cascade of physiologic events in response to a stressor, real or imagined. And the real or imagined piece is very important because something that freaks me out may be not a big deal to any of you. I may see a spider and lose my mind. You guys might be, spiders. The spiders don't scare me. But that stress, whether it's acute or chronic, we have the same exact physiologic cascade. It doesn't matter if our boss just yelled at us, if we had a horrible day with our coworkers, if we almost got in an auto accident, if we saw a scary spider, our body goes through the same exact physiologic cascade. There is no differentiation there. It's acutely driven by sympathetic innervation. So all of those things that we feel, the sweaty palms, the heart rate, the cold sweats, all of that is driven by sympathetic innervation, and it's getting us ready to either run or fight the dragon, right? But the problem in modern society is that we don't have these real acute stressful episodes where we have a lot of physical activity to deal with it, and then that is the de-stressor for us. We live in an environment where we have chronic stress all the time, and the problem is that our sympathetic nervous system, it can't stay upregulated for days and days and days and days and days. So what happens is our endocrine system steps in, our hormones step in, and the hormone that keeps us tuned up and ready for the fight or the run is cortisol. And cortisol is an incredibly destructive hormone. It's when you see the president going into office and they're young and they're fresh and they're happy, okay, and then you see them coming out 4 years later and it looks like their skin's sliding off their face and their hair is gray, or they still have their hair. That's cortisol working. That's what cortisol does. And so we have to reverse that. And the best way to reverse it is intense exercise. And I know you guys thought, well, I thought we were going to talk about wellness. We're coming to that. Okay. And the reason why I put that slide up is because we really are in this kind of group think mindset that, well, if we're going to talk about stress and fitness, it should be yoga. And I'm like, no, we should go out and we should do 6 repeats of 400-meter sprints. People are like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. That's what we should do. We call this sickness wellness continuum. And for us, you've got sickness on the far left hand. Wellness is kind of in the middle. And one of the issues with wellness is that the definitions that you find of wellness don't allow for really good measurement of progress, right? They've got really long, fluffy things about optimized health and all these things, but there's no way to measure any of that. And so a lot of times what they do is they use clinical measurements to look and see, is a person progressing towards wellness or a more healthy well-being, things like that. But those are kind of in the middle, and fitness is actually on the far right hand of that spectrum. And what we want people to strive for fitness. We're pushing them towards being fit, right? With wellness kind of in the middle. So from a program standpoint, our program is we developed this Fitlosophy, get it? Philosophy, Fitlosophy. We developed this years and years and years and years ago. And I'm not going to read all of these. There's a plus side and what we call the negative side. But on the left-hand side, these are what we call our pluses. On our other side, these are what we call our negatives. But these rules are what drive every decision we make in this program. It's what drives what programs we run, what equipment we purchase, how we design our spaces, how we set up our curriculum, everything from our communication down to the smallest detail in the gym. These are the rules of our road. We do a lot of collaborations on campus. We do a mind-body project. And this is a really cool project. We've presented the data at a couple of national conferences. And the goal was to treat anxiety, depression, and stress in our students. And so counseling puts the cohorts together. And the cool thing about this is that we have a counselor and we have a fitness instructor, and the whole group does high intensity exercise together, and the whole group does group counseling together. And this was a really unique model. And the numbers, I will tell you that the results working with the students when we're doing our evaluations with the students, the numbers are off the chart. The counselor that works with us, her opinion is this is the most profound thing she has ever done to treat anxiety, depression, and stress in students. Police services, we work with police services they teach all of the self-defense classes through this program. There's a reason why we do this, and that's because it's a nationally recognized curriculum. It allows our police to work with all of our students in a non-police setting, sort of kind of pulls them out of what students have this mindset about the police department being. It's on a both credit and non-credit basis. It has been an amazing program. Kinesiology major, we run all the labs. We teach a ton of their classes down here. We also have their students teaching in our program. And then we work with Mary, Mac, with the Disability Resource Center for our Summer Bridge program. And we have the mentors and the mentees exercising in the fitness center together. It's awesome. And then we're working on a new program where we're going to have our kinesiology majors who are taking the exercise prescription for chronic disease are going to be working with the DRC students. So it's going to get them really hands-on with some of the conditions that we talk about in class. So there'll be a benefit to us, our program, a benefit to the students, and a benefit to the DRC students. Last slide, I think, just wanted to talk really quickly about this building. When you walk into this building, it's not what you expect. Tons of open spaces, rings, pull-up bars, barbells, you know, a more traditional looking gym side. Whoops. We let students use rings. We let them do rope climbs. We let them do gymnastics. There's fight rigs in the building. And the reason why this building is designed that way is because almost every fitness center or recreation center that you walk into on a university campus is this really narrow North American concept of fitness, right? If you have international students, their fitness, their physical education, their sport, it's a very important ethnic and cultural identifier. There's a ton of ethnographies on sport and fitness, but they're grounded in gymnastics. They're grounded in martial arts. They walk into one of our fitness centers, none of that equipment resonates with them, but a 4-point fight rig, absolutely. They understand how to use that. Open space where they can do forms, they can do gymnastics. Absolutely, they get that. A fixed bar, a pair of gymnastic rings, all of those things resonate with those groups. And so for us, when we talk about cultural competencies in fitness and sport, those are the things we want. We want them to, for every single person that comes through our door, to be able to find their thing, whether their fitness is based in, like I said, if it's based in gymnastics, if it's based in martial arts, if it's based in a fitness model, if it's based in a sport model. And so our use demographics really, really speak to this. Okay, any questions on what I went over? Because I gotta get Mac going. Okay, Mac, it's your turn. I will mute my microphone if I can find it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you, I think that part about fitness is really such a stumbling block for everybody. Are you seeing any changes in people's willingness to understand that and go further with their fitness, realizing that it's not, you know, you get more fit and you have to do more things?
Right. No, we are. And, you know, we do a group. We don't do personal training. Personal training just doesn't work. So we do a lot of group coaching, and we use a curriculum for our Fitness 101 class. And that's one of the really most profound things that we do is you just see the lights coming on with people about the importance of their work capacity. And so, yeah, our campus, when people visit our campus and see how our students and our faculty train versus other campuses, they're blown away. They're just like, I can't believe that this is how your students train. It's like, yep, it's the culture. You know, it's taken us 20 years to get here, but this is the culture of fitness on this campus.
Awesome.
Okay, go after it, Mary.
Okay, next slide. So I'm going to be talking to you today about the DRC Peer Mentor Program and how it got started and our view on wellness and the strategies that we use for fostering social relationships. We're going to kind of review the mentor process because it looks a lot different than it did when we first started, and talk about some of our campus collaborations for health and wellness, and then some takeaways. So next slide, please. So I am at the Disability Resource Center. We serve approximately 2,800 students right now. It's about 13% of the total UNR student population. We see an annual increase of students at about 10% that seek accommodations. We still average a healthy number of intakes every week with incoming students. Next slide. So really the mentor program was based on a kind of a transitioning option, coming to UNR. We have other things that the DRC has offered. We have a math core equivalency course. We used to offer annual transition and technology fairs, so students with disabilities would have a chance to come on campus and experience some of the technologies that we use. We do a lot of collaboration with local high schools through special education nights, exit IEP meetings, transition meetings. And then we come to something that we started, the DRC Peer Mentor Program, and where that led with a summer bridge is how it ended up. So let's first talk about the DRC Peer Mentor Program. These are some of our mentors and mentees. And really the program goal is to build connections between new and more experienced students with disabilities to promote academic success and personal growth. So how this all started really was, Jim's gonna laugh, this started with two PhD candidates, very different fields, who said, we really want somebody to talk to that is a friend, that's more of a relationship and a friendship. And we hooked these two people up together and they decided what they wanted to do, which was go work out together and then go get something to eat. And that's how this started. My director, Mary Zabel, and I have known for many years that our students in particular tend to feel a sense of isolation. And that's one of the main reasons that students don't persist on campus, is because the data shows it feels like they don't belong. So we considered that a success with those two students, and we started to wrap our heads around developing a more structured program. This started about 8 years ago, as I said, and we started small. And when we looked around to check other universities, which is where we got the idea from, there weren't very many universities that were really looking at wellness or anything for students with disabilities on campus. So we set out some goals, and the mentors' goals look a little different than the mentees. The mentors' goals are that they will develop leadership and communication skills, gain patience and insight and understanding into somebody else's world, acquire experience for future careers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on some of the other slides, form new and rewarding interpersonal relationships. That should be starred, because we came to find out that that was the most important thing that really our mentors gained. And they fostered a sense of belonging as part of the UNR campus community. This is my cat Blitz that you can hear. Next slide, please. So mentees, very important for incoming freshmen or transfer students to develop those self-advocacy skills and be more autonomous, the kind of skills that you need at a university. Oftentimes we found that students with disabilities are not very good about saying what they need or understanding how they learn. So we wanted that to be one of their goals, and to discover how to effectively use campus resources, how to navigate the college environment, gain awareness about how their disability really impacts their learning, and develop some academic strategies like time management and organizational skills, which they all seem to need. Next slide. What we came to realize is what we were talking about was kind of a social wellness program. And we actually, one year we did vision boards with our mentors and mentees. We paired them up, and you can see that this is one example of a wellness wheel. We actually we blanked those out, gave them some examples, and they developed their own social wellness wheels and what the goals would be for the mentor and the mentee, and their relationship goals and what it looked like to them. Next slide. So the program model matches incoming students with disabilities, like I said, and upperclassmen or graduate students, also students that don't have disabilities. Faculty now join in. Mentors use their knowledge of campus life and resources and provide their own guidance through personal experiences, which really is invaluable advice, but it's more than advice. It's really meeting the mentee where they're at and working with them and developing a real relationship. Next slide. So we require, as part of the program, that the mentor needs to meet with their mentee once a week. And it's an hour minimum. Usually what they're doing is working out or going for walks or hiking or going to movies or going to presentations, and it's a lot more than an hour, but we require at least a minimum, and they usually have to be face-to-face meetings. Mentors are required to turn in a status report, and we'll talk about those in another slide. They're both required to do monthly professionally led trainings and some monthly case review sessions for the mentors, and that's with counseling services. They've been one of the greatest collaborators that we have on campus to this point. So recruitment, mentors and mentees are recruited by in-house referrals, website information, and direct invitation. The Disability Resource Center strategically recruits mentors, usually with a 3.0 GPA, usually juniors and seniors. We work in collaboration with other mentor programs, student government, School of Medicine, and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, to name a few, and of course, counseling services. Next slide. So there's an application process. Then I, as the program coordinator, and usually whoever is working with me as a co-coordinator, interview the applicants. They apply. We review goals, preferences, interests. The mentor and the mentee are introduced usually at the DRC in an initial meeting. Mentees and mentors can take a 1-credit class each semester through speech pathology if they want to get credit for it. And mentors also receive a $100 class stipend for each semester. Next slide. So the application process, not to show you the app, but just goes through things like where you're at in college, class standing, college major, your list of your preferences to be matched, major, gender, disability, condition, etc. What you hope to gain from this program, your interests and hobbies, and favorite food, music, and entertainment. And really what we found is the best matches are there are people who are very open-minded. Next slide. There's guidelines for mentors and mentees. Students represent the DRC if they're a mentor and must adhere to confidentiality guidelines that the DRC has, as well as the UNR Code of Conduct. It's pretty normal stuff. Attendance is required for all trainings and events. Students will not share personal or academic information about each other with unauthorized persons. Students are also required to notify one of the coordinators if the mentee expresses intent to harm themselves or others, or if the mentee reports sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, and/or discrimination. So that means that we first give these guidelines to mentors and they sign on and they understand. And then that mentor, when he meets the mentee, goes over their guidelines and makes them understand these exact same rules that they have. Next slide. So as you can see, as usual, our students have a lot of fun with their status reports. Besides telling us what's going on and if there's an issue or what they're working on, they love to pick out, memes, where they're eating, what they're doing. And it's been a really fun way. They just upload that into the form, not just to prove that they're meeting together, but what they're doing and how they're having fun. So I always throw this in because it's just important to see that it really is about relationships. Next slide. So we have, as we talked about, professionally led trainings from all sorts of campus resources, counseling services, School of Med, academic departments, Title IX, the Office of Student Conduct, Career Studio, the Office of Inclusion and Diversity. One of the things that's important to notice is that these, the students pick what they want to see happen. And so all of these are examples. Some of them we brought and thought they were important for students to go to, but students really, as you'll see, really guide through their evaluation of what's happening and what they want to see happen. Next slide. So session topics: social wellness, personal growth, active listening skills. We've done lots of sessions on burnout. Relationships 101 is a very important one. Everything from dating to how do you make a friend. Implicit bias training. We do a career expo every spring. They're just fabulous. And another really important thing, and this is an example of a student this is a student-led kind of program, that neurodiversity panel that's in there. We had a student who was on the spectrum, who said, I think we really ought to talk about neurodiversity. So we had a panel on neurodiversity. Next slide. So we were just doing really, really well. And like, here's our schedule for spring 2020. We had our first ever ice cream antisocial, which was really fun. Students loved it because they could come and eat ice cream and hang out, or didn't have to talk to anybody, but it was really well attended. And we didn't really ask anything of the students. And it was just like a social time for them to eat ice cream and hang out. We had a career expo. That went really well. You can see that we have mentor and mentee process groups. Mentor and mentee process groups, they're separate. Mentors, it started with mentors, and mentors have since said that this is one of the most important things that they do. There's usually 3 sessions a semester, and it is led by a counselor in counseling services, and the mentors have a chance to meet, get together, share ideas, share if they're having any insights into themselves or any issues, if something's welling up inside of them when they're trying to work with their mentor. The mentee, they learn leadership skills by leading a group, and they really love it. And so that spring, we started mentee process groups. And about halfway through, we all know what happened, and that was COVID. So many of these things were immediately put online, including our spring graduation celebration, which is a very important part of our mentor program every semester. Next slide. So we would be remiss if we didn't talk about what the DRC Peer Mentor Program looked like in the age of COVID with our workshops and process groups. We added something called Social Hour. And believe it or not, even though everybody was zoomed out, they still weren't really seeing each other and were pretty isolated. And my interns for that semester said, we want to do a social hour. And it was fabulous. So a couple times during the semester, they set up an open Zoom, and kids came and talked, or they sang, played harmonica, watched movies, painted together, and they were really very successful. Next slide. So these are some highlights from the age of COVID and what we've been dealing with. We still had mentors and mentees were still hiking, they were still going out, they were making masks, they were doing things that they could do together however they could do it. And the ones who did not feel comfortable meeting face-to-face were actively engaging each other, either through Zoom or whatever they were using to connect with each other. So it persisted, and maybe in spite of itself, I think during COVID, it was even more important for students to try to find some connection. So the mentor program was still continuing and successful. Next slide. So as I said, our program ideas come from our students. Student feedback serves as the basis for future programming, and students develop initiatives and participate in campus-wide activities about disability-related issues. So what is the motivation for mentors? As I said, to a person, every mentor that is wanting to mentor with our program has said in their initial application, they really want to give back to somebody who's just coming on board at the university. And the other thing that's very striking is, as I said, my first intern was Ada Diaconou Marison, who's now over in IRB. And we would laugh and say, okay, we matched these students up exactly how they wanted to be matched. They did 2 students with diabetes, and they wanted to be, because they both had the same disability, they wanted to be together. And that was one of the worst matches we ever had. They hated each other. We really realized that it was about, in the end, about relationships. Sometimes it works if they're matched by major, but it actually is somebody who's open-minded and willing to have a relationship, a new relationship with a new person. And that's what really drives the mentors. Next slide. So the key takeaways is that we have very flexible mentor and mentee pairings based on our experience. The more you try to set up and structure this and say, well, this person has this disability, it really doesn't lend. You're already giving them preconceived notions about a relationship. We found it much better to just put the 2 people together in a room and let them talk and see if it's going to work. And really, they build the relationship. it is about social network and building relationships. It's also about developing a sense of community. It certainly benefits the DRC because if there is something that's going on through these reports and I need to notify one of the other coordinators in the DRC that this is happening, it's just a great lifeline for us because we see a lot of students and there's no way we can keep up with them. And to be really honest with you, as much as we think we rock, it's much better for a student to be able to talk to another student. And then the mentor will take it to us so that we can reach out to that mentee if they're struggling, if we need to. It is very student-driven programming and quite successful student-driven programming, as you'll see. And it does indeed foster academic success, personal growth, and health. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to see if we can do this. This is a mentor and a mentee who were together for probably 2.5 years, and they just are talking a little bit about their mentor experience and mentoring experience. So Jim's going to turn up his microphones. It's very short.
Hi, my name is Eric Clark, and I'm going to talk about my mentee experience with my mentor, Greg, over here. We grew a really great relationship right off the bat. I mean, me and him were be really good friends, probably right off the bat because of our sense of humor is the same, and we just get along over stuff. We have a lot of stuff in common, except Star Wars, and he's always been there for me. We've always had a good time, never really a dull moment. Always supports me with schoolwork, social life, family stuff, and just being an overall better person. So I really appreciate Greg for all the stuff he's done for me last year.
So as a mentee in the DRC Peer Mentor Program, what things would you say contributed to your successes here at the University of Nevada, Reno?
For me, it was moral support from you, my family, and friends. College was a really difficult time trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do with your life in the future, but also enjoy it. So without you, family, and friends, it would have been a really hard time trying to figure out not only just school, but who I am as a person and what I can do. And you've always been there for me and always helped me out when I really needed it. And I appreciate it so much because it got me to this point and this far in school.
And it's not been all business either. We've had fun. We played video games and
Gone fishing. We got meals, we got cooking, we got all this good stuff.
yeah.
It's more of a friendship, if you ask me.
It is. And that's kind of the whole point, you know, you gotta meet the needs of the mentee.
Oh yeah, everyday life stuff to make the program work even better. If you have someone you don't want to hang out with or be around with, then the program will work. But with me and you get along like two peas in a pod. Yeah, exactly.
Next slide. So we're going to talk now about the bigger picture really quickly, and we can just go into the next slide. As I said, a lot of this was student driven, but what came out of those 2 neurodiversity panels we did was extreme interest from the Northern Nevada community and from the campus community in neurodiversity, which is a way of looking at people that have cognitive differences and including them. It's about inclusion and equity. Well, ASUN got very involved. We created the mentors and mentees decided that they wanted a tassel or to represent accessibility and that they made it through when they were graduating. And so I can't believe it, but we all got together and the students picked a color and they liked a lilac color. The guys and the gals, they all decided it was going to be lilac, and the Lilac Tassel Initiative was born. ASUN then was they just thought it was great, and they made a resolution saying that they would support access, and that got us a little proclamation. It was really great. It led to Faculty Senate neurodiversity subcommittees. We started a working student group on neurodiversity. And we eventually got funding to have our first summer bridge last semester for incoming students who are neurodiverse. Next slide. So we secured funding for first time program. It was first time ever. We had 12 incoming freshmen who received a laptop or an iPad. Their mentors started working with them in the summer. It was going to be a bridge to fit. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So we had to do this online as well, but it was very successful. It was 16 sessions over 2 days. And all those mentors and mentees are still together even this next semester, and will probably continue. That's what's usually happening with our mentors and mentees. They continue those relationships well after they graduate. But we had our first summer bridge. We have now been funded for another summer bridge, and we're looking forward to maybe doing that one in person. But all of this started with one student. So don't ever think that one person can't change something. It started with one person saying, I think we really need to talk about neurodiversity, because so many of our students, and CDC says 26% of Americans have a disability. Many of those people would identify as neurodiverse, either through being diagnosed with mental health issues, ADHD, learning issues, anxiety, all those things would be under neurodiversity, whether they identify that way or not. But it's an important step for this university to move forward with recognizing the importance of neurodiverse students. And again, it started with a student saying that this was important to her and that we all ought to look at it. Next slide. So fun, lilac tassel graduation. That was our first one. And I think we had about 10 or 12 graduates that year. Will Carrasco was one of them. But we always honor everybody and celebrate at the end of each semester. And we have many people outside of the DRC who request the tassel that are getting PhDs or that are staff, may have a family member with a disability. So it really caught on. Next slide. Just more happy graduates with their lilac tassels. So it's been a really good thing. The DRC Peer Mentor Program has had continual growth. We have over 50 mentors and mentees this semester in the program. Next slide. And this is just one of our celebrations that we have. This was our winter graduation celebration with guest speakers, and it's been a tremendous value. It's evaluated very well by the participants. And there really seems to be a need for this. And we continue and will continue to partner with people on campus. And I'm really looking forward to our partnership starting with Jim and what that's going to look like. We've done many other things in this program. We've had people that taught yoga, art. We're doing an art therapy session exercise today for the first time in person. So it really is student driven, and we really have some, I think, great ideas and real support that these students feel. And that's why the program continues. Next slide. I'm at the end, and we did it just in time. Are there any questions for me or Jim?
Total silence. Okay.
Yeah, if anybody has anything they want to throw in the chat or any questions they have. Oh, there's a question from my boss, Jim. I think you should answer this question.
Where is it? Hi, Jim. Are you feeling? Yeah. Can you expand a bit on how you two plan to collaborate? Absolutely. So I've already been in contact with the lead, Dr. Constantino, up at kinesiology. Yufu, actually, I used to teach the chronic disease class. Yufu teaches it now. We're in discussion with him about, okay, how do we work this out as a lab so that the students get credit for it? And then our next step is going to be, I'm going to get back to Mary and say, okay, what types of conditions are we looking at, and how many students do we have? And then we have to figure out within use class, will this be teams? Will this be one-on-one? And really, we need to make sure that those students are really versed in what we call exercise prescription for chronic disease for that specific condition. And then we also have to figure out who's going to monitor them. Initially, they'll be monitored heavily to make sure that they're using the appropriate prescriptions and et cetera for the condition. And then kind of go from there, and we have to figure out an evaluative piece. But everybody involved so far is yeah, this makes sense. This is an easy one to do. And those are my favorite collaborations, are the ones that they're not forced. You just kind of look around yourself and you're like, hey, this makes total sense. We've got these 3 pieces. These should be hooked up somehow because everybody wins.
And then we're going to do something really fun for the summer bridge for those students, which is now increased to, we have enough funding for 25 students. So there'll be 50 people in the summer bridge this coming summer. And Jim promises to do something really fun and fit.
You always have fun.
We always do.
It's fun. Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all.
Okay, I guess we're done, Carly.
Yeah, all set. Okay, well, Jim and Mac, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation and all the great work that you do. For those of you who are attending, the next breakout session starts at 10:30. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. And again, just thank you both and happy Friday. And everybody have a little bit of a break before the next session. So maybe go have some coffee and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.